Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to do a review on the movie Antlers. I was able to see this movie recently and, I thought I wanted to talk about it because it wasn't exactly everything that I thought it was going to be. So anyways, Antlers is a folklore horror film. It actually came out this year, I think like a month maybe or so ago now. It's based on the story Quiet Boy by Nick and Tosca. It's directed by Scott Cooper. It stars Carrie Russell, Jesse Plemons, and Jeremy T. Thomas. And it was actually produced by Guillermo del Toro, which, when I saw his name at the end, because I didn't really see many trailers or anything about it, so I don't know if they mentioned it in any trailers that he was involved in the film, because I did not know that at all. So I was a little surprised to see his name at the end of it, and then also because I didn't like it that much. Usually I do enjoy the films that he creates or has part in or whatever. Film is about a teacher who is played by Carrie Russell, and she moves back home to her small, little, neglected, isolated, sad, depressing, little, dark, moody town. And she moves in with her brother, and she's a teacher, so she starts teaching at the local school there. And she becomes interested in a young boy in her class who, when they had like a subject or whatever that they had to kind of tell a story on, and through this story sharing time in her class, the kid shares a kind of a story that gives a peek more deeper into like his own personal things that are going on in his life. And because of this, she's like kind of trying to uncover what's going on in his life. I really, really, really wanted to like this movie. I felt like it had like the good like bones of a storyline, and it had like a lot that it could have went, like it could have gone really good places. But I felt like it just didn't deliver to its full potential. It's obviously a story about abuse and kind of like unsaid or unspoken past intentions that these characters have, specifically Jesse Plemons' character and Carrie Russell's character, who they play siblings. There's like this quiet tension between them, kind of like there's like a history. Obviously they're siblings, so there's a history between them that they kind of don't seem like they want to bring up or delve into any deeper, or they don't want to like really bring up the past in any way. So there's a lot of tension between them because it's like they know, it's like an elephant in the room type of situation. They know something has happened within their lives with each other, but they don't ever want to go into that territory again. And it seems almost like they, because of this tension that they have with each other, they can't seem to either understand each other or see where the other person is coming from. And obviously there's a potential in the story for like an interesting folklore creature type of storyline. But again, the film just never seems to go to its full potential. So I think what Scott Cooper's, the director's intention was for this film was to kind of just leave a lot of things unsaid and kind of, leave, I guess, maybe the audience in some type of like limbo with what was going on in the story, or for them to kind of figure out things for themselves. Because again, like I said, there was things that weren't really said between the characters. So you kind of have to figure out what that history was between them on your own. And I feel like I understand the reasoning behind this because like in real life, obviously situations, this type of thing does happen. People don't really talk about their past with each other. And there sometimes always isn't necessarily closure for people from like their past when they were children and like the trauma and stuff like that they went through. So I get that. But I feel like I still wanted a little bit more, like a little bit of fleshing out, maybe a little acknowledgement of something that they've gone through together. We kind of get something like that. I think towards like the end of the film between Jesse Plemons' character and Carrie Russell's character, where, they do have a brief exchange of kind of like, oh, well, you don't know the full story. Like you think you were the only one going through something, but I was also going through something during this time too. So you kind of get that, but I feel like it wasn't enough. Like I wanted them to go a little bit deeper into that and kind of just work that out with each other a little bit more. But they didn't. But overall, this film didn't really feel like a scary or a horror film to me. Yeah, it had like its scary moments. There was definitely like things that I was like, oh shit, like that, like something's about to happen, but I never once felt scared or felt like a deep tension or like, oh my God, what's about to happen? Like usually a lot of times when I watch scary films or horror films, there are moments, especially if I'm in theaters watching it. Like if I'm at home, I'm not like really like that scared. But if I'm in theaters watching it, like there are times where I'm just like watching the movie through my freaking fingers because I'm afraid of something that's about to happen, or I don't want to see like something scary out of nowhere. It's mainly in theaters that this happens. Like at home, I don't really do it. But I never once felt that way watching this movie. I never felt like, oh shit, something's about to happen, or like I'm afraid I'm gonna see something scary right now. I just was like watching it like, okay, like whatever. I just never felt on edge at all throughout this whole film. The movie just more felt depressing to me. Like I felt sad for the boy's character, Jeremy T. Thomas's character, which that's good on him because he did an incredible job acting in that. He really made me feel for him as like a child in this movie. I felt like I wanted to just like go on the screen and like help him because he was obviously abused and neglected and all that stuff. And it was just very sad, and it made me feel bad for him. But then I had to like kind of, remind myself that it's just a movie. He's not actually going through this thing. But I think that's a lot to say for this young guy who, acted in this. I think he brought a lot to that character, and you really like, again, felt for him. You just really felt his desire to kind of want to keep his family together, and like it almost felt like a little boy who felt like he had to do it all and he had to be the one, like the savior of the family. And it's very sad. It's like I feel like things like that happen in real life, where a young child has the responsibility of picking up the slack of a parent that's maybe not there or whatever, and like are like parenting the younger siblings if they have any younger siblings. So I think that's a real world situation that happens to kids. And so like to see it play out in kind of this way, where like there's a little bit more going on to the story, was just very sad. Like you felt his desire to keep it all together and to put on like a persona, like not even that things were going well, but just that he could help his family when in reality he actually couldn't help his family. So obviously, that's one thing I liked about this film. Another thing that I really enjoyed actually about this film, I don't want to just shit on it because it wasn't the best, but I want to say some nice things about it. So obviously the acting was done very well. I love the scenery of the film. There's just something about a small, moody town that seems like it's just like very, I don't know, I just feel like small towns are just like the perfect location for a horror film. There's just something about it. I think it's because they seem like they're like cut off from the world, and they don't really like have any other outside connection. It's just like the people that are in the town that's like, I don't know, it's just something about it. It's just very like, it seems like they're on their own. So I think that's maybe also why. And just like the scenery, it was just moody, it was dark. Things felt like they were like breaking down in the town. Like it felt neglected a little bit. And there's just something about that that's just perfect for horror. And so I really enjoyed that. Again, the scenery was just beautiful. The creature in the film was done pretty well. It's not that surprising to me because again, Guillermo del Toro was involved, and I feel like he's really good at creating some spooky creatures. And then lastly, so one thing I wanted to bring up is like, a lot of times when I like look at, or when I'm thinking of my own review, like I'll write all the stuff that I want to write, and then I'll like look at other people's reviews just to kind of see what they got from the film. And so one thing that I saw online, it was like an article, and they were talking about how, obviously the creature in this film is a Wendigo, and they talk about how this creature came from Native American culture, but there is no mention really of Native Americans in this film. There is, but they're just not as heavily like centered in the film as I feel like maybe they should be, especially because this is a creature from their culture. They talked about how like, yes, they had like a Native American person kind of doing the voiceover in the first beginning of the film about like the Wendigo and how it's an evil creature and all that stuff. And then you also have Graham Greene's character in the film kind of teaching or informing Jesse Plemons and Kerry Russell's characters about what a Wendigo is, but that's it. That's all you have of it. There's no like real, like they should have been more interwoven in the story just because like it's coming from their culture and stuff. Like, duh, like they should be involved in it in some way a little bit more instead of just like, oh yeah, this is what it is. Like, go take care of it. So overall, yeah, it wasn't my favorite film by any means. I was actually kind of disappointed in the film. One thing I feel like I've been noticing a lot lately with horror, or at least the horror films that I've been seeing in theaters specifically, like the more recent ones, is that, because I love like folklore, mythology type of horror, those types of things. Or even if it's like made up, it doesn't even have to be based in anything real. I just really enjoy those types of stories and like things that are supernatural, all that type of stuff, even like religious type of stuff that all like interests me, like demonology and all that stuff that heavily interests me. But I hate when things are introduced into a film. So like the idea of a Wendigo, or I can't even think of anything right now. But like these types of things are like a book or something, like these things are like a concept. These things are introduced into the films, but then they're not fleshed out at all, or they're not like, they're mentioned, but then that's it. Like that, they don't like go into any deeper. And for me, I like when I can learn more about the thing that this is happening to the town. For instance, with this one, it's like the Wendigo is introduced, you get a little snippet of the history, and then it's like them trying to kill it. Like, I feel like it would have been kind of interesting to like learn more specifically about the Wendigo, and I don't know, like, how did this come into how did this creature be born within that town, or, like, other like instances of like people who have had experiences with the Wendigo and how do they like kill it, or how do like things like that. It's just like I hate when things are introduced and they're not completely fleshed out at all. And I feel like I've been noticing that happen a lot lately in films. I forgot what the other one, I think it was called The Night House or something like that. I feel like that also had something similar to that, where it's like I wish they would have kind of gone into it a little bit more. But yeah, it's just disappointing when that happens, because like those are the things that I enjoy a lot, and it's just sad when it doesn't exactly happen that way. And it's also because I feel like those are the things that make the story interesting. Like that history kind of makes the story more fun, because it seems like it's kind of based in like a real life thing, even though it might not even really be a real life thing, but it just seems like it kind of makes the story and takes the story a little bit further. So it's sad when they don't kind of like go into that a little bit more. But yeah, I think that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I think overall, like if I had to do a rating of like 1 to 5, I'd probably rate this movie just a solid 3. Not because of the story, just but because of like visually how it looked, and like obviously the acting was done really well. So that's why I would give it a 3, because it definitely, the vibes, I was told I said vibes a lot in the last video, but the vibes were there. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Like it made me like feel like, I don't know, it just like it makes you feel something, But like the story and everything else kind of made me why I would rate it a little bit on the lower side. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know if you've seen Antlers, what your thoughts were, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Did you even know Del Toro was involved in that film? Because I did not know. But yeah, that's it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!